One, two, one, two. Mic check. Mic check. Peace, Pandora. How you doing today? Peace out there in Cyberland. Whoever is tuning in. Some reason I don't see myself over here. I wonder what's going on. Oh, there we go. Okay. Right on. I'm glad to hear that. So I want to see if we're going to have to get this thing rolling. Um, I can talk about some of some about one of the stories in the news cycle, which it'll be in there probably for about the next 5 minutes until something else rolls in and diverts attention in that direction. But let's talk about this. You see the little play on words with the title, The Curious Case of Captain Kirk. And I made a thumbnail for this that I will put up, and it'll make sense about the how I title this. And this is, of course, is based on the recent happenings. What is today? Today is the 15th. 5 days ago, the big news story was this guy who I hadn't even heard of until all of the hoopla broke out. So, peace, Lisa. And so I didn't know who he was, and I'm not going to suddenly care because um you know, I've been directed to care. The only reason we're going to discuss this character is because we delve in addition to astrology over here, we delve into symbolism. We delve into metaphysics. We delve into etymology and a host of other things. And there are things that started firing in my brain. My synapses were just ping, 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 ping when as I started to kind of pay attention. And the name, of course, really sparked my interest. The last name, Kirk, especially given the fact that I did a video probably last year titled The Astrology of Black People, and it was 1966. In that video, and I've mentioned it before in other videos as well, but specifically in that one, I spoke about the significance of the emergence of Star Trek, the first episode of Star Trek, which appeared in 1966. But not only did it make its first appearance in 1966, but the date was September 8th, 1966. And this event that occurred was on September 10th. Now, before I start rolling, I want to say this, be clear on this. I also mentioned around the Neptune Aries transit. I spoke about things not being as they appear because Aries deals with appearance and identity, right? And Neptune is illusion. Neptune in its modern rulership of Pisces also would set over um, Hollywood, over magical productions, over television, over cinema. Now, when it comes to anything we see, especially on the television, and let's be honest, YouTube and other social media outlets are the new televisions. You have to stop before you even speak on it, have an emotion about it, respond, react, whatever. Everything now in this particular period of time we in, you got to sit and ponder, is that even real? Like if you don't have anything to ground you prior to this particular um, part of the wave pool that we're in, you can get lost in the sauce because it's hard to determine what's real and what's not. If you don't already have a compass, if you don't already have some other tool that helps give you direction and figure out what's what. All right. So we got to take that into account. You don't know who anybody is unless you know them. But with that said, this event happened on September 10th. I'm going to do my best to piece this together. And this is going to be an incomplete thought process because this is not an attempt to be exhaustive. So you can take these little bits and pieces and you can run with them as you will and do your own whatever. But like I said, to me, the only reason of even discussing this, because I don't care, is because of the symbolic potential connections and implications. And I think it's significant. So what I will do is I gotta keep uh let's start here. Let's go back to 1966 in the human timeline, or what we called 1966. What happened of significance, mainly starting, I guess we're saying 65. 66 or 65. Let me get my ephemeris so I can kind of get close. I think it was, I want to say 65. Yeah, let's see. Yep. No, 66. So in 1966, Uranus and Pluto were conjunct for the first time. That conjunction became partile when they were at 18 of Virgo. No, correction, 17 of Virgo. That's when they made their first conjunction. Um, They made their conjunction at 17 of Virgo. Now let's just look at the actors in the play here. Just some brief little keywords. Uranus, volcanic, disruptive, pioneering, cold, rebellious, right? I'm trying to think of other words. The word panic is associated with Uranus. Um, let's see. Pluto, hidden things, underworld activities, excrement, riches, subconscious mind, obsession, compulsion, transformation, transmutation, um, obvious poisons. This is Pluto. So then look at these two planets that represent this myriad of heavy energies. They are conjunct for the first time at 17 of Virgo. All right. Virgo would be physiologically, Virgo deals with our first brain. Some say second brain. We could arguably say first brain. First brain, the microbiome. It deals with the small intestines. And the small intestines have one of their big jobs is absorption because there has been a sifting that has gone on. And then this sifting has then led to the designation of what needs to be eliminated and then what needs to be absorbed. But let's put that under one big umbrella called the microbiome. And the microbiome is the hidden brain. The microbiome is where the war in heaven takes place because we have malefic and benefic bacteria that are clashing with each other. And the microbiome arguably has the greatest impact on our overall wellness. And you got these two malefic energies that come together within the microbiome. And so it was a time of revolution, right? All types of groups coming up, all types of extensions of movements that had already begun, and just a eruptive time, revolutionary time. Just as much as we can think that there were things that were bubbling, that were positive, if we want to be poetic about it, that those two energies also could represent where something very malefic was cooking, where a process was begun. And that process would gestate, possibly, and gestate, and then possibly by some 57 years later, maybe the gestation had grown to where those two energies that were conjunct at that time now were in a position where whatever intentions were seated, now they start to materialize. Because whereas Uranus and Pluto were conjunct in Virgo, the microbiome, in 66, those two are now in a trine aspect to each other. Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius. And at the time that this occurs in this time in the human timeline, we have those two planets in communicative signs, signs of socialization, social media. I said that I talked about how every time Uranus, a lot of astrologers have talked about when Uranus is in Gemini, we see some emphasis on war, right? Last, when Uranus was in Gemini in 1861, it also coincided with the last time um, Neptune was in Aries, where we have civil war, right? Then the next time that Uranus was in Gemini, World War II. Here we are again. But what I talked about is how, and I don't know if it was here or was it on TikTok. I talked about how this is going to be something that develops differently, though, almost like it's a war of consciousness. It's a war on a different battlefield, and social media and influence is one of the major theaters of war, in my humble estimation and opinion, with this particular transit of Uranus and Gemini. Now, just look around now. Look around. Look how many people are reacting to something that you may not have had no vested interest in, may not have known anything about, don't know if it's the validity, and just look. And this, what I'm trying to demonstrate is why this beautiful science slash art works great when you use it in conjunction with the assessment of historical data. Because then it gives you the ability to expand your perspective, which is what one of the gifts that's supposed to come out of this. And you start looking like, wait a minute, all competent, good, or great astrologers have to have the ability of pattern recognition. The gift of being able to see the position of heavenly bodies, one of the gifts is to be able to recognize patterns. And pattern recognition is what prediction is based on. You study patterns. You study what it means for these bodies to be in certain positions or aspects to each other. And aspects are the types of conversations they are having. When Pluto and Uranus get together, it's like these G5 countries meeting at a summit. There's a summit. You got all these big egos in one room, you know, and Uranus is like, I can blow you up this way. And Pluto was like, but I can implode you this, da da da. And then you got all these big energies, but they having a summit. That was 1966. And so some type of treaty is being enacted right now because they are in a trine to each other. And that trine is the equivalent of the signing of a treaty. Now that treaty can be broken and they can go to be back to beefing but for right now, they got a treaty. But that treaty does not necessarily mean that it's benefic in its intentions. So it just so happens that right now in this space we in of all this, you got to look at the bigger. If you're gonna look at it, and then this all attention I'm gonna pay it, but the only reason I'm paying attention because I feel it has bigger implications than your emotional attachments either way to any of this. The stuff that's being highlighted is inconsequential. So I want to try to maybe show you the things that maybe should be paid more attention to. Starting out with the fact that Uranus and Pluto are involved. And when they met, they were at 17 of Virgo. The current nodal axis on September 10th was at 18 of Virgo and Pisces. And on that moment in time is sandwiched between two eclipses. We had the uh, total lunar eclipse at 15. Look at the proximity 15 of Pisces. And then we got the partial solar eclipse coming up at 29 of Virgo. But here it is, sandwiched in between where they were conjunct, Pluto and Uranus in 66 at 17 of Virgo. It just so happens to hit right around the nodal axis. And the nodes oftentimes deal with destiny. Okay. So I'm not grasping at straws here. So this is enough to start getting our attention. So Star Trek launches September 8th, 1966. And when it launches, uh when it launches, Uranus is at 19 and Pluto is at 18 and the sun was at 15. Mercury was approaching it was at 14 approaching God, I can't remember in the heart of the sun. I can't think right now the term, not combust, but it was a Kazemi. It was approaching a Kazemi with the sun. Okay. The main character of Star Trek is is William Shatner, whose character's name is James T. Kirk. The T stands for Tiberius. Tiberius is a river in Rome. Rome. Kirk is circle from the same family as the word church. Circle church. I broke that down in the video. Okay. James is the brother of Christ according to the story. All right. So, tagline is to boldly go where no man has gone before. And what is suggested is boldly going where no man has gone before is somewhere out there in space. But Uranus to boldly go where no man has gone before, conjunct Pluto, the trick was that it was not outer space. It was inner space. That was the probing that was being initiated. That is very, very key. because most of the movements and things that were set up in this period of time were about outward expression, changing the world, trying to do things to fix the 3D reality, but it was um they pulled a switcheroo, and the show told it. It's just that the mind was conditioned to think that outer space was where no, they were going in. Inner space was the probing. That's what was launched with James Tiberius Kirk, the guy who supposedly met his demise on September 10th, 2 days after the first episode of Star Trek appeared. His name is Charles James Kirk. Now, to me, I said, I bet, I wonder if his, now this is before I even looked at it. I said, I wonder if he got James in his name anywhere. And I'd be damned if his middle name was not James. Charles James Kirk. Now you may be thinking, now what is that? That still does not show the connection. And this is how I gotta try to piece this together. First of all, the similarity of the name. Remember, Neptune and Aries. It's a movie. It's a movie. Everything, Hollywood is everywhere now. Everything's Hollywood. You don't have to go to the cinema to see a movie. The movie is playing 24/7. This kid is born 10/14, 1993. So he has a Libra sun. James T. Kirk was being set up to be a Christ figure. That's the point of that role. He was to be the Christ figure representing the faction he represented. When the Christ goes to its death, because the Christ is the sun goes to its death when it crosses the aquinal equinox, the fall equinox. That is when the sun crosses. This is Jesus going to the cross. And this kid is born in the sign that represents the sun in its fall, or Jesus going to the cross. He is a mirror of the main character, James T. Kirk, who is the Christ, who is played by William Shatner, whose birthday is 3/22/1931. His son is in Aries, where the Christ is rising up out of the grave, where the sun is exalted. Just like we're seeing mirrors between, you know, everything's a mirror, right? The nodal axis is always showing us mirrors. Relationships are showing us mirrors. These two are mirroring each other. Now, when this kid is born in 93, the, the connection, the connecting glue is the planet Uranus. Uranus is the connecting glue. Okay, stay with me. Uranus and Pluto is what we've been talking about thus far. But now we're going to add in Uranus and Neptune. They have 172 roughly cycle from conjunction to conjunction. They had a conjunction in 1821, and they were conjunct again in Capricorn, I think, in 1993 when this kid is born, 1993. Now, let's think about this. Uranus, in addition to those other traits I named, it's rebellious, it's volcanic, it's a disruptor, it's enlightenment, it's pioneering. Okay. Uranus is also technology. And we can say alien technology. All right. And when I say alien, let's not connotatively run off and think I'm talking about big head, green, big eyed, big head, green little alien, which means anything outside of netter or nature. Alien technology. Okay. Uranus is conjunct Neptune. Neptune, which deals with hidden poisons. So, drugs, um, things that your body will accept, thinking that it's one thing, but it's really being deceptive. It's something else. That's Neptune. But keeping in line with the association with aliens, Neptune would be alien consciousness. Uranus, alien technology. Pisces, alien consciousness. Those two get together in 1993. What is significant about right now? Uranus is the common denominator between these two big outer energies, Pluto and Neptune. There was conjunction in 66, Pluto and Uranus. There was conjunction in 93, Uranus and Neptune. What's significant about right now is that Uranus is in aspect to both of those right now. It's in a trine to Pluto and it's in a sextile to Aries. And this is why I'm paying attention to this whole debacle. Not about the emotional part, but if somebody was doing some type of, let's say, hidden activity and looking to bring something online that's been cooking for 60 years, then what might that be? And that's why we got to look at, that's why I'm calling out these key words. Uranus, panic. Uranus is cold collectivism. This is one thing that is lost about Uranus. As much as we talk about Uranus being rebellious, is that the flip side is that Uranus is also about collectivism because it may, through its cold assessment of data, create this thing of collectivism, thinking that this is creating some type of utopia. It's dangerous. It's a potential danger. And then Pluto with poison, hidden things, no. I say Pluto, Neptune, hidden poisons, alien entities, lies, and illusions. I'm giving you some of the darker, negative sides of these energies. And then when you have a huge energetic vortex, which we are in because we're in eclipse season, we're also approaching the fall equinox. And we know that the solstices and the equinoxes are very sensitive times, which is why the mythology places death and resurrection around these points because they are portals, right? What might be getting missed in all this is something being ushered in. I want you to think about this. What I said when go back to my videos when I talked about Neptune and Aries, how your environment will be so important because people become the contagion. Like the impact that everyone will have on each other will exponentially increase. So if you can put out a spark a flame of psychosis, then it can spread profusely right now. And psychosis can manifest in a multitude of ways. It can manifest through um, fake scenarios. It can manifest through fear and panic around sickness, people following an identity that may not even be real and losing themselves. You know, Neptune is something where we lose ourselves. And then Neptune and Aries also is that we may not have no good idea of who we are, which then promotes losing yourself. Neptune breaks down things, it breaks down barriers. And with that in place, that's why like our auric fields can become more porous right now. And the whole idea of influence, you got to reimagine what the full nature of what influence is. Being influenced by somebody can be very dangerous. So if you don't ground yourself through um, analog processes, analog processes may be something as simple as touching the earth, um, touching the products of the earth, having real human communication, having deep conversations. Like shallow conversations are dangerous. They're more dangerous now than ever because they can leave you in a state of leaking energy. Shallow conversations are almost like getting stabbed a million times with a little tiny little knife to where you don't know you getting hit until you start bleeding out. Like people just ciphering little bits and pieces of your energy through nothingness. Empty, ain't talking about nothing, or people moaning and groaning, or people consistently negative, or just talking about bullshit. That is draining. So you must gird yourself, protect your energy. And that's where the Saturn comes in, where a little bit of healthy selfishness to protect yourself, boundaries. because what I feel is being enacted is that there are, and I mean on a metaphysical and a purely physical level, we're dealing with an infestation. We're dealing with parasites, microorganisms, literally in the microbiome. Remember, that's where the operations initiated in the microbiome. Follow the food since then. Okay. But also think metaphysically that we're talking about if my mind is not in a certain state and it's not sending the correct instructions to the energy transfer stations, which are the organs, and the universal highways, which would be the nervous system and the blood, then that makes us more susceptible to the physical microorganisms. So we got the metaphysical microorganisms that they need to do the job of impacting this brain to allow more access to this brain. So this is, I'm going to use this word that's been overused, ritual. It's a ritual with several usages because the energy is so potent here at this time where the sun cross the electromagnetic field is in such a state of flux at this time every year. This is why, naturopaths always suggest you do some type of cleanse or detox around the solstices and the equinoxes. And so you have this huge ritual that is levied right here in this window. For one, the people who actually sat and watched it, even if it's a Hollywood production, in the subconscious mind, it is registered as it is what was viewed. And so they took that into the mind for what? So that takes residence in the mind. Okay. Then if you actually were moved by it and you emotional either way, yeah, you got what you. It's like people saying, yeah, you get what you put out. Like you got that side, and you got the people. You had a family, All of it's emotion. Emotion is food. Emotion is food. When I was coming up, and and I felt like I was sometimes not accepted by my peers. My mother um used to say, ignore them. And I used to think that was just like, oh, give me something better than. But as you get older, you learn the power of ignoring. Like it really is like everything in our reality is based on the exchange of energy. Our whole reality is based on sex. Sex is rhythm, call and response. So if I put out a certain agenda or action, I need there to be a response. And what that now that creates sexual activity because it's a back and forth. Every time you have a conversation with someone, it is the equivalent of energetically at a certain level, the same as sex. It's an exchange of energy. So when your emotion gets in and then you take it and then you take it into your psyche, your consciousness, and you start engaging, you then help that energy to create a circle. You create a circuit because you've engaged it and you think it's real and you're going to take a side and you, whatever, sexual energy. And how does life come into this reality? Through sexual interaction. So then that interaction helps to create an egregore or a thought form, which is what the Hegelian dialectic. It is a means of setting up a relationship, and the ultimate reality is to create A plus B. It is to create C, which is the baby that comes out of the interaction. A lot of times we are willing participants in sexual magic through our mental and emotional attention. So the best way to utilize this energy is to be on point and, you know, make sure you are hydrating yourself. Make sure you are whatever work you have initiated that you do not feel like your work has been in vain. You double down on it, on that work, on your real inner work. How do you zap microorganisms? With light and with frequency. Literally, you can have a frequency generator that goes in and annihilates pathogen. Well, the same happens metaphysically. The frequency you are operating at helps to annihilate pathogen. Like people got to get back to studying. People got to get back to actually, you know, and I mean study on all levels, but most importantly, studying yourself, studying how you react to things, studying how you feel in situations, studying how you are triggered, how you respond, how, all these things. Figuring out what your superpowers are. Do you really know what your superpowers are? Which is the beauty of learning to assess your own natal chart. Your radix holds keys in there. Have you identified them, and have you figured out how to cultivate and use them? This is what we're talking about. This is a great reminder for you to double down on these things. There is nothing more beautiful than getting to know yourself, especially with a planet that deals with confusion moving through the sign of self. Self as or the emergence of a self, not self, but the emergence. Aries is the emergence. We have to emerge into the matrix before we can start figuring out who we are in the matrix. Aries is the kindling, it's the point of initiation. And so here we are working at a handicap because we got something trying to dissolve where we are looking for something to be a direct point of emergence. So I see this whole thing, peace, Rhonda. I see this whole thing. Lisa said, my mantra watching anything, I'm here to observe, not to ingest. That's right. That's right. But also be aware too of how this might be playing out on the bigger stage. This, we may I've seen other things that are happening too that I think may be connected. And just think Hegelian dialectic. A few months ago, they had all these hearings where they brought all these people up who were pro uh allopathic means of responding to the big sickness that happened in 2020, put it that way. And the guy who was the main head and some of his minions, they brought them before the Senate, right? And they were grilling them and da 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 da, right? And then remember they were also talking about we want to know about remember how there was the big hoopla about the seeing the different things that look like alien sightings and alien crafts and how they're just we want to put it all out here for the people. Then all of a sudden that faded away. You got to think symbolically. Something coming from somewhere else to Earth. Think of the your vessel as Earth. All right. And that those so-called crafts or whatever as entities or microorganisms. Now, more recently, they had RFK. They had him. They were grilling him, right? This is her. You man, it's classic Hegelian dialectic. They grill the other side. Now they're grilling the exact opposite. Now, here's what I think the play is. Let's go ahead and just put this. The play is this. I think when you increase the emotional fervor and the stress hormone emission, that creates fertile ground for something of homeostatic imbalance or something to move from homeostasis health wise to emerge. And so then what might be the play is that we show you both sides and then you leave the people where this new thing emerges and they say, no, we ain't gonna force you to do nothing. No, do what you want to do. And then the people come and demand for higher so-called entities or organizations or government to step in and do something. And the people are ripe for the picking because the vast majority, let me tell you this, even some of the people who think they're deep ain't. They ain't. And so if you got a lot of people who think that they're, people are amazing. But if they ain't really up on things, then my God, what about the vast majority of the population? It ain't really the grasshoppers, it's the ants. Go watch the movie Ants or Ant Life. Watch both movies, Ants and Bugs Life. One of them, I can't remember one. One is where the grasshoppers, and it's George. What's my man's name? He played in Enemy of the State with Will Smith. He plays the villain, the head of the grasshoppers. Um, and he breaks it down. Got his name on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember his name. But he said it's just a few of us. And they have to keep control of their minds. Because if the ants ever realize, why are we running from a few little grass? So the real problem is the ants. The people represent the ants. And the concern is with how people react. Because if people are not intent on figuring out who they are, why they are, What makes them tick? What what is what is that rumbling deep down in them that's bothering them? If they're not trying to get to that, they are dangerous. And they are especially dangerous when more stressors are placed into the world. And that is what we have to pay attention to, the people around you, not from a thing of being afraid and scared, peace, divine rights, but from the standpoint of being aware of your surroundings. Be aware because what we're dealing with is also zombies. These are the zombies. Peace, that crazy. These are the zombies. That is what and the movies have conditioned us to look for zombieism in a certain way. They got multiple packages. They can be the people in the most affluent neighborhood who drive the SLS 560 or the GLS 560. They can be the people who limping across the parking lot in the Sam's, 400 pounds riding in the cart, with full of cereal. It can be them slew foot people driving them Teslas at Costco. Don't matter. The zombies come in multiple packages. And that's what's so slick, because each group thinking that I've got it figured out. They even come looking like they're spiritual and conscious. Straight up zombies. Your mind, your mind is the most powerful thing you got. It's the most powerful thing you got. You must fight for its not only survival, but its flourishing with all your might. I want you to go and watch also the movie. Oh man, what's the movie? Oh man, my kid's been. Um, it's the movie. It's got LeBron James in it. It was Michael Jordan did it first. I don't know why I can't remember it. And then LeBron James did it. Don Cheadle is in it. It's the Looney Tune thing. Somebody help me out. What's the Looney Tune movie with LeBron James in it? Well, let me Google this. What's that movie? And Don Cheadle. Uh, Space Jams. Space Jam Part Two. Space Jam Part Two. Go watch that. It is a. They listen. That is a must watch. That is not no. That is not no kid movie. Don't be confused. Don Cheadle, his character, will show you what is happening. Algae Rhythm, his name in the movie. You must go watch Space Jam 2 because to me, that movie's foreshadowing to especially this period we in right now. So final thing, Final thing is that we cannot overlook the fact that this event also taps into the 9/11 energy. Now, I mean, that's a obvious, right? So let's not forget that in 93, when this kid is born, this Kirk kid, who again is a mirror of William Shatner, who is Captain Kirk. Let's not forget that in 93, there was a discovery of something called, they call it machos or machos. You can look this up. It's an acronym, capital A, no, capital MACHO, machos or machos. And it was galactic dark matter that they supposedly discovered in 93. All right. Now, we know that 8 years later, that's when we have the towers come down, right? 9/11. But in 93, discovery of this so-called galactic dark matter. Remember, I said in 66, Star Trek's tagline was to boldly go where no man had gone before. We assumed it was out. The agenda was to go in to the dark matter hidden within the inner verse. And so, in keeping with this 9/11 energy, which would go on to be what we would associate with emergency. I mentioned that in the video too. I think I did a video on when 911 first came out, as in the emergency handle. But what I want to look at real quick is something that I've also talked about previously, and we'll conclude with this because this seems to be the vortex that this is set around. Let's not forget that the Bible opens up with Bereshit, a Bereshit, and that this word Reshit means beginning. It means first, it means primal, the first fruit, the choice, the best, the choicest. And it is spelled out as a Resh, Aleph, a Sheen, a Yud, and a Ta. And it has a gematria of 9/11. Let's also not forget that the word uh, Sharit, uh, uh, wait a minute, what my pen? Okay, my pen is tripping. Let's try this again. That Sharit, which is mm, this word means remnant. So look at this. These two words cover the spectrum of alpha to omega. Reshit is the beginning. And remnant designates something left behind or left over, as in last, the beginning and the last. And possibly, peace, Tiffany, what possibly may be peace shade, what might be have been behind the first event and then possibly connected to this one is an understanding of these energies right here and certain people who may be connected to this, and that there needs to be a disruption in the realization of the energy around this 911. And there's a race to go into inner space, because when you get into inner space, the hope is that there can be a prevention of the realization of source. The Aleph itself holds the secret. The Aleph is God hiding itself. And it continues to travel throughout the alphabet until it gets to the end. But the whole saga of the Aleph in itself is where God first hides itself. So that would be the remnant, and it would also be the end. And you must go into inner space to interact, interface with the Godhead, with Source, not out there. It's going in here. So we need to become more acquainted with our in here and vigilant in protecting our in here, the dark matter, on all levels. I'm an Aquarius, so you have to pardon me. I guess without trying, I tend to speak in metaphor a bit, but you also have to, in this day, you have to speak in metaphor. I think those who have Shema ears are picking up what I'm putting down. That's going to conclude it. Our little broadcast. That's my 2 cents on it. We'll come back later and talk about the upcoming solar eclipse at 29 of Virgo, which lands right there at the end of Virgo, right before the sun moves to 0 of Libra again. And that 0 of Libra is opposite William Shatner's sun at 0 of Aries. William Shatner, who is James Tiberius Kirk, who is the mirror of Charles James Kirk. It's an amazing world we in. 720astrology.com is the website. Know the stars to know yourself. Peace.